So Duel's just got itself a new main box, and believe me, it's a banger. Unless you're a Cosmo player, the only other actual deck list in here is going to be Magical Musket, which only requires 1 to 2 copies of the Ultra Rare Max, as they made the best card in the art type only a rare rarity, meaning you can just go through this box once and you'll get not only an entire Magical Musket deck list, but you also get things like Knightmare Unicorn, Firewall Dragon, you'll get Dark Hole, you get that Trap Hole card, which is actually pretty decent in itself, you get Log. This is one of the most insane boxes they've probably ever released in terms of just pure value. Unless, of course, like I mentioned, you're a Cosmo player, which then, rip bozo. Now, I could sit here and talk for another 10 minutes about how much value you get out of this box, but it's like 4 AM and I kind of want to go to bed at some point, so let's just get into the video. So here's today's deck list. Now just a reminder before I get into the deck list, if you're enjoying today's video and seeing more content just like this in the future, especially if you're a returning viewer, as apparently about 50% of people watching this are even subscribed to the channel, yet nearly all of you are returning viewers who have seen my content before. So you find yourself keep coming back to the channel and see more content just like this in the future, remember to leave a like down below and consider subscribing. Also, I'll be doing a ton of new box content over the upcoming days, and maybe even a selection pack or even a new structure deck content depending on what Konami decides to release. So yeah, remember to subscribe, I have a bunch of content coming out. So today's deck list is obviously Magical Musketeer, and this deck list is going to be extremely easy for me to go through, simply because it's a really basic bitch deck list. It's so damn easy to play, and all the effects are really damn simple. So if you haven't played Musket before, you've never seen them before, basically all your Magical Musketeers come with the same effect, where during either player's turn, you can activate Magical Musket Spline Trap cards from your hand, which are going to be your Magical Musket Cross-Domination and your Desperado, one of which is simply just a pop one of your opponent's cards, and the other is just to negate one of your opponent's cards. Also, this card will then reduce the attack and defense to 0 as well, so if your opponent tries to swing into you, you can activate this, make their monsters attack 0 during the damage step, and destroy any monster they try to hit you with. Each of your Musketeer monsters comes with a pretty decent effect. The first one being Kidbrave, who despite being an ultra rare, it's not even a requirement to run 3 of it. You could honestly run 1 copy of this in the entire list and it would be completely fine. This is actually a very free to play friendly deck, excluding the fact I'm running Ties of the Brethren. Alright, so Kidbrave, basically if any spell or trap card is activated in this card's column, you get to discard 1 Musket card from your hand to then draw 2 cards. Then we have your Caspar, who likewise, any card activated in its column will allow you to then search for any Musket card from your deck list. Also, we have your Doc. If you activate any spell or trap card off your opponent does in this card's column, you can just add 1 of your Musket cards from your graveyard back to your hand. And the final card we'll be talking about in this particular deck list, because this deck list actually doesn't use its extra deck basically at all. I used it a couple of times during the replays, but it's mostly just to show off the new Nightmare cards. You don't really need these cards. You could basically just cut the entire extra deck and the deck would probably still run just fine. So the only actual card left for me to talk about is going to be why we're running Ties of the Brethren, because a few of you guys may not have seen this card. It's been a long time since it's been a deck list that's actually wanted to use it. Basically, pay 2,000 life points and target 1 level 4 Alon monster you control. For the rest of this turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters. Also, special summon 2 monsters from your deck with the same type, attribute and level as that monster, but with different names. You cannot conduct the battle phase the turn you activate this card. So this card is ridiculous in this deck list, because basically, you summon any of your Musketeers, activate this card by paying 2,000 life points on your Musketeers, you just summoned 2 more to the field, and this means all their effects are going to be live. Also, if you used, for example, Caspar, and you activate Brethren on Caspar, if you used it in the same column, it would trigger Caspar's effect to surge. So essentially, you're going to have all 3 of your Musket effects live on turn 1 if you get to activate this card, which is ridiculous, as you'll see during the gameplays. Also, it does also proc all your skills, such as your Destiny Draw or your Extra Extra. I think Destiny Draw might be a better skill, to be honest, but Extra Extra is kind of fun if you guys haven't seen this skill before. Basically, it just turns your normal draw into a draw 2 instead of a draw 1, except the second card you draw is just a clone of the first one. So it's sort of a fun skill. You'll see it in the gameplay, but yeah. So this deck list, I think, should be running Ties of Brethren, especially considering it's sort of an all-in turn 1 sort of deck list, because the weakness of your Magical Muskets is generally going to be back row, just like with a lot of deck lists, but this one in particular, because all your cards are going to be used from hand, and if your opponent activates something like a Book of Moon, or activates anything to remove your first monster, all of a sudden, all your effects are turned off and you have 0 disruption, so This decklist, I think you should be going all in on turn 1, and it's not too bad going second, especially considering you can activate your quick effects straight away, so it's not awful going second, but this is definitely more of a turn 1 decklist. Alright, I've rambled enough, let's get into the gameplay. Alright, let's get into the replays. So today's replays I'm actually pretty excited to show off, as a lot of them are actually really decent replays, which is surprising considering it's super late in the season, where most decklists are get a little bit more sus, but I've got some really decent replays to show, including at least one rank up. I don't think I quite got the second one. I think my win rate with this deck list was 7 wins, 3 losses, I believe, and one of them I misplayed pretty heavily, where I definitely could have won against a Galaxy Ice player, which I'm pretty sad I didn't get that one. It's already been a sick replay as well, but yeah, we had some pretty good replays today. We had some fairly sus replays as well, but most of them were pretty decent. Alright, so the first one was a Harpy player, and we got to go first with Ties of Brethren. And by the way, this is my first time playing the deck list. This just shows how easy it is. You don't have to have any brain at all to play this deck list. You'll know how to play it basically the first time you play it. It's very, very simple. Alright, so Ties of Brethren, target this dude, summon 3. Because I used it on Caspar, I get to add a card to hand. And now we have a negate and a pop to use during my opponent's turn, as well as a Forbidden Lance. My opponent activates his ground. I'm going to immediately activate my Forbidden Lance on my monster. This is because if he summons a Harpy, he will now blow up his own field spell, and it'd be kind of funny. Also, I get a search out of it too, so why not? Alright, pop his own field spell, Lamau. Now I get to negate his monster effect. We change Swallow's Nest to swap it out, which will stop my negate, but thankfully I've still got a pop, so they can't play through a negate and a pop. I'm just going to pop this card, and he can't summon anything anymore. Also get to use my dude's effect to discard and draw 2, because I activate a card in its column. Activate another card in the Doc's column, which adds back one of the cards I used earlier straight back to hand, and also popping his monster on the field. This deck is absolutely crazy if you have the 3 monsters on field. It's ridiculous. You can play it without Ties of Brethren, and a lot of people are playing that the pot card, which stops you special summoning for a turn, but lets you look at the top 3, add 1 to hand. You can definitely run that card, it's pretty good, but personally, I think this deck is going to be way more fun with Ties, even if it is the worst way to play it, or the worser way to play it. It's definitely not a bad way to play it. Alright, so this is one of the more sus replays. This I think was some Trickstar deck, which, let's be honest, Trickstars I don't think is a real deck list. At least maybe it is with a new Link monster, I have no idea, but yeah. This is one of the hands I didn't get Ties, but it's fine, I still got this dude and some stuff. He tries to use Candina, tries to search, we're going to negate that, which is the best search in the deck, obviously. Kidbrave, discard, draw 2. He's going to go into a Holy Angel, who we can destroy whenever we feel like it. I probably shouldn't have skipped that animation, my bad. Alright, summons his Korribane from hand, beats over my monster. We don't care about that too much, I've still got 2 other monsters to use, and we drew a Ties, so... Alright. Add an extra copy of Desperado to hand. Pop his card on the field, and add another card back to hand with Doc. I think Doc is so underrated in this deck list. I think at least 2 copies of Doc in every list should be mandatory. It's so damn good. Alright, activate a card in this column, so I get to draw a card. Add a card back to hand, sorry. Pop his card, negate the other one. I have 3 of the negates in hand now. Keep in mind though, these are once per turn, so very important to note, you can't just keep negating your opponent's stuff infinitely. You only have 1 negate, 1 pop every single turn. Alright, Lance, going to be adding a card to hand. Going to be Link summoning Unicorn for the BM. Discard 1, pop his card. And normal summon. I think I actually add this back to hand with Doc, I'm pretty sure. Just to show that Doc can also add monsters back, not just spell and trap cards. Alright. On to replay number 3. I think that was the last super sort of average replay. I think the rest are pretty good. There was one Dark Magician replay I know I definitely misplayed. Oh, this replay was so good. Okay, this was against a TG. This was a really banger replay. Because this shows that this deck list can do some good things going second if it's against Monster Disruption. Back row Disruption is pretty painful, but against Monster Disruption, if you open a copy of your negate, it's actually pretty good. Alright. So you guys know how TG works. He's going to summon his Synchro. The annoying Synchro that lets him summon out his Quarion Gandrax or his Trishula during my turn, so we just need to stop him doing that and we're good to go. If he had some idea of what I'm playing, he might be able to play around it by synchro summoning before I sort of do anything. Actually, I don't think he can even do that because it's during main phase only, right? So I get my priority first. So I summon Musketeer, all of a sudden I'm good to go. I threaten to go to battle phase, he immediately tries to use his Synchro Summon, which we negate, and he's just done. That's his turn done. And this is also kind of how the Galaxy Eyes matchup goes too. If they summon out their Galaxy Eyes dude, you just negate its effects, and all of a sudden you're kind of just good to go. And that's just how that matchup goes as well. It's a shame that I lost that other one, because it looked really good if I didn't misplay drastically. I pop his other card, so he has sort of an awkward sort of monsters on field, can't do any Synchro Summoning, so good to go. Pops my card, doesn't matter. It's also just pointing out, I know I kind of shouldn't be pausing so much, but another major advantage of this deck list, all your cards are in hand, so things like Mystical Space Typhoon and Night Beam are almost completely dead. He actually had a target for, in this case, might have been Lance, but generally, they're just dead cards in your opponent's hand, and nearly everyone runs at least 2 copies or 3 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon, so it's really damn good to make cards just dead in your opponent's hand. Tries to use Dark Guardian, I get another negate, another search. I also get to pop his final card on the field. Making sure to pop this one so he can't do any Synchro Summoning. Pop his last card, search once again, adding a Doc this time so now I can start recycling all those stuff I have in Graveyard. I think of all the Muskets, I talk so much good shit about Doc. I think Doc is so cool. I think he's by far my favourite. I love Doc. Alright, adds his Serpent. We know what's going to happen to that Serpent. Instantly negated. We ain't letting that go through. And recycling back me trap card. Instant concede. Alright. So if you're wondering why I'm not running the... Well, it's pretty obvious why. If you're wondering why I'm not running the other level 4 musket, it's because it doesn't work with ties. That's simply it. It doesn't work with ties at all because it's level 4. It has to be level 3 to work with ties, so I just cut it from the deck list. It's probably... If you're not playing ties, you're going to definitely want to run that card as it's really damn good. But if you're not running it, if you're running ties, I mean, you probably don't really want to run it because it doesn't work with it. It's not a bad card though. Alright, so pretty sus looking hand, but it's fine because at least we drew off a Bin Lance going second, reverse Dark Magician, which is obviously one of the best counters to it. Alright, doing some sus Dark Magician stuff. Thankfully he discarded his Karma card because that would have been really annoying if he had 2 lots of removal. Actually, it would have been that bad. It's still really fine. I don't know what order he used it in. Either way, Bin Lancing my monster before he gets to activate his Magical Circle to pop it. And now I can activate my ties, summon out some dudes. Alright, I'm going to be popping his card and nuking his field. I probably could have done this during his turn, so I could have gotten a search off of my Caspar, or at least gotten something out of it, because honestly I couldn't use this guy's effect because I had no cards to discard for his effect, and there's none in Graveyard, so I can't use Doc's effect. So I could have waited to my opponent's turn, then done it, gone a draw, but I don't know, it felt kind of bad either way, because it would have meant that I wouldn't have had access to Desperado if I do search for it during my opponent's turn, which is very likely, considering he has to activate any spell cards or whatever, so I hope that made sense. Essentially, I probably could have used this during his turn, might have been better, either way. He activates Dark Hole and nukes my field, so what does it matter? I think I just completely rambled and none of that made sense. I apologize. It is actually like 4 AM right now. I shouldn't be recording. Alright, it's actually one of the latest videos ever recorded. Alright, extra. Drawing 2 cards, getting 2 copies of Caspar, which is pretty sick. He's going to activate his... Obviously, just pointing this out, make sure to put this Caspar in the column where he has to use his spell cards from. This way I guarantee get Caspar's effect. So if you don't have the mandatory, or the, not mandatory, the allowing you to choose where to place your monsters into which column turned on in the settings, you definitely need to, because yeah, you have to place this, there's a lot of positioning with this deck list. Especially in the spells, like my god, you need to be able to choose where to place your spells. So we search for my negate, because I know he's going to search for this little dude. No searching for you. And yeah, he's just dead from here. Pop his card, lethal on field. You're getting out of here. Alright. Next up we have Big Oof. What was Big Oof playing? Alright. Oh, this replay was pretty... It's pretty average too. I think this was the World Legacy stuff. So you get to see the new World Legacy card in this replay, I'm pretty sure. New Monster Reborn. Alright, so he's going to link summon out his Dragon. Summon a dude from hand. Going to a link 2. And I think he tries to Ibly lock me, which is pretty funny. I think this is the Ibly lock guy. So this is awful for World. This is not how this deck's meant to. This is meant to have like a firewall in combination with the this dude on field. This is an awful start for him. He's done absolutely nothing. So that's why I kind of call it a pretty sus replay. Some cool stuff happens, but yeah. Pop his card, search for another, negate, so I can beat over it. We have another one in hand anyway, so I really don't care. Alright, so banishes to search for his World Legacy Succession, so he can bring back a card later on. Goes into Ibly to go into Mermaid. I don't want him to summon another Mermaid from deck, because that would be really annoying and mean he gets into another Link summon. I don't want him to do that, so I'm going to negate it. And also get a search in the process. So now he's got this thing on the field, which by the way has now locked me to only being able to Link summon as my only special summoning method, which is also why I'm running a copy of this dude. So if anyone tries to do that versus me, I can just summon my Link Disciple using it and then have a, I can still use my Ties of Brethren on whatever monster I have on field. If you're wondering why I have Link Disciple in the deck list. But I think in this case I just use it to go into a Nightmare or something. So Succession brings back his dude, I'm going to pop that. Unfortunately, he still has another slot of Revive, which was pretty scary. But didn't really matter too much. He just made a Phoenix, which is like, okay, sure. Summon my dude. Unfortunately, didn't hit a spell card, which is very rough. But I can go into a Security Dragon, co-link it so I can remove his monster. Had quite a few ways to few choices to remove that monster there. This was the only one that didn't use a discard, so that was alright. Finally drew a spell card, so I can just play the game again. Hit my Doc, add a card back to hand. Big summon Knightmare Unicorn, discard, shuffle into the deck, and he's gone. Yeah, Knightmare Unicorn's gonna be a real staple in this game from now on, trust me. Alright, you think with like with like so limited zones, only having like a Link 3 should be fairly difficult to get out, but I feel like most deck lists are just going to run Knightmare anyway. It's really not that hard to summon, it's so generic. I mean, you guys already know, because a lot of deck lists are running like Ningirsu, right? It's basically just a better Ningirsu, so... Alright. Bang a hand. Thankfully our opponent did nothing going first, which is not the greatest for a replay, but I think he did some stuff afterwards, if I remember. I think he had follow-up plays that made the replay actually worthwhile using. Oh yeah. So I misplayed a little bit in this one, I think. So he does a lot of super quant stuff, which is a deck I'm not super familiar with, which is why I misplayed pretty badly. So he activates the field spell. I had no idea this wasn't a once per turn, so I probably should have popped the field spell immediately. He uses it, discards, I pop his monster instead of the field spell, which does stop the Xyz summon, but obviously you can do it again with any other monster he normal summons or special summons or whatever. Okay, search out of it. Monster Reborn brings it back again, and he can just do the exact same thing again. Did use it in one of my zones though, nice guy. Going to his Magma, I'm going to stop that real quick. Does get a revive out of it though, which means he can use his thing again. Going into the Book of Moon on wheels. Not sure why he beat over Doc specifically there, but good on him. Draw 2 cards, hit double Cross-Domination, which is pretty sick. That's just an extra, that's literally just an extra Cross-Dominate just added to hand. That's pretty sick. Honestly though, I think, I'm gonna be real here, I think Destiny Draw is just the better skill here, but extra is way more fun, okay? We're playing for fun. Try to target his card, gonna negate it. Yeah, beat over his monster and pass the turn. I think I misplayed again a little bit there when I was using the right column or something, or used the target, like, targeted the wrong cards with the spells. It didn't matter either way. We drew into my Desperado, so it didn't matter. I mean, pretty bad though if it didn't draw into a spell. Monster Gate gets a blue layer, brings back a green as well. I think he gets a red out somehow as well, if I remember. I think he tribute summons the red eventually. So discards, tries to use his swap. This time I'm going to pop the field spell because I know how annoying that is now. Gonna search my negate. And keep in mind his life points are very low, so if he swings in, damage step, reduce to 0, and make him kill himself. Alright. Alright guys, let's do it for today's replays. Hope you guys enjoyed them. Remember, I'm going to be uploading a ton of new box content, a new selection pack, or maybe new structure deck content over the next few days, so remember to like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, and hope to see you guys in the next one. Laters.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob?
Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis.
Oh.